Hello and welcome to the official North Star Military Figures YouTube channel. My name's Rich and today I'm going to be painting a couple of our recently released Oathmark Human Heavy Infantry models. You can see the models here and I'm going to be painting them to a tabletop standard which will allow you to get your army ready in a reasonable amount of time. The colour scheme is based around a lovely dark green and an off-white and matched with some natural browns and the gleaming metal panels and chainmail. So with that in mind, why don't we get started? We have a line breaker with a two-handed weapon and a soldier which has a hand weapon and shield, and you can make a combination of these from the box set. You can either have, say, 30 line breakers, 30 soldiers, or maybe 15 of each. So I primed these two models with Colourforge's matte black. And the first thing we're going to be doing after this is moving straight on to the armour. So for this I'm painting all of the steel sections using Army Painter's plate mail. This is an excellent metallic paint that covers most areas in one coat. Some of the larger flat areas such as the sword and the helmet will probably need two coats. I also like to keep my metallics separate from my other paint, so maybe just use a small well palette rather than a wet palette, which stops any cross contamination with your normal paints and those horrible little flecks of metallic paint getting everywhere. As you can see, I'm just following the shape of the helmet here. Try and always follow the shape of whatever part you're painting, as it will give you a smoother finish. Down the sides of the shield in particular, nice long flat straight bits, so we're just doing a couple of coats here, and the same with the sword. Always make sure that the previous coat is dry before you paint the next coat on. And there he is. Next up, I'm going to be actually using some weapon bronze to paint up some different areas of the armour. So as you can see on the soldier here, I've painted the hilt and pommel of the sword, and I'm painting in the metal vambraces. I'm doing this just to really break up the different areas, so not everything's the same steel colour. Gold belt buckle, why not? It's a bit of a classic, and who doesn't love a gold belt buckle? Again, this paint normally takes two coats to get a good, clean, solid base coat. You can see here on the line breaker, I've actually painted the front of his helmet in the weapon. Now I'm washing the metal areas with dark tone. I've diluted this with 1:1 with water, and as you can see, I'm just splashing it all over the model, not worrying about any sort of neatness at this point, because we can deal with that later on. I used angel green here, obviously to paint the green parts. One of the legs of the soldier will be painted in green, as well as two of the panels on his shield, giving us a nice quartered effect. As you can see, a lovely paint, just needed a couple of coats just to get a solid colour. Next, I mixed up sand yellow and ancient stone. This will be my base coat for those lighter areas. Like an off-white colour is what you're using. As you can see here, I needed more ancient stone than sand yellow, and all I've done is diluted it with a little bit of water to get this consistency you can see here. So I painted the other leg using this base coat. Again, just applying it in smooth strokes, trying to get as good a coverage as I can. Again, we were looking at two coats of this, remembering to leave the previous coat to dry, and then also filling in the other two remaining panels on the shield. Again, this needed approximately two coats. As you can see, the first coat not necessarily covered well, and so I just used the colour to stipple it in. Next up, we are going to highlight it with straight ancient stone. As you can see on the shield here, we're leaving the edges slightly darker, and here we have both models with both the green and the light off-white colour done. So for the leather body armour and the boots themselves, we're actually using oak brown. This is a great colour, covers very well, so most of these areas were smoothly covered in just one layer. I then repeated this process with the boots. To highlight the leather, I'm actually using onyx skin. We're using this to highlight the areas that the sun or other light source would hit. So the top of the legs here on the front of the armour, and then moving to the rear, we're actually going to be painting the backside here, which protrudes quite nicely and would catch an awful lot of the light itself. So a nice big highlight here. And what I actually do is build this highlight in particular up in 2 layers, which increases the opacity, which adds an extra level of highlight even though we're only using one paint. Repeating this process with the boots, again thinking, where does the sun hit? So it's going to be the top of the boots. So for the skin of the soldier, we're actually using barbarian flesh. This is a very translucent paint, so you will need between 4 and 5 layers of this in order to achieve a nice even base coat. And there you can see it. And next we're going to be actually shading this using strong skin tone. I've diluted this about 50-50 with water, and I'm just liberally applying this to the model's face and hands and letting it run into any of the recesses, including the eyes. And I'm not actually going to be painting in the eyes as it's an unnecessary detail for army painting. So now we're moving on to highlighting the skin, mixing together barbarian flesh and Dorado skin tone. This is about 50-50, and I'm using it to highlight the raised areas of the skin, such as the knuckles, the fingers, the cheeks here, the nose and the chin. Next is just a straight final highlight with Dorado skin tone on its own, hitting the same areas, just leaving some of the previous layer visible. So for the belt and pouches on the models, I've actually used a different brown, this time fur brown, just to differentiate between the leather armour and the leather of these areas. As you can see, it goes on pretty well. We're looking at probably 2 coats just to get a smooth coverage. I'm also using the same fur brown to paint in the wood of the line breaker's axe handle here. Got to be careful at this stage. Obviously you don't want to be getting this on the already painted skin, so take your time, and again you're looking at around 2 coats for this. In order to highlight the belt pouches and the belt, and indeed the axe handle, I'm actually using topaz skin. As you can see, it's a colour that's fairly close to the fur brown, and again we're using it just to highlight those areas where the light from the sun or other light source would hit. So top of the belt and just running some down the back of the belt there. For the axe handle, there is some sculpted wood grain in there, so I'm just using the very tip edge of my brush just to apply some long strokes to show again where the light will be hitting the wood. So here the 2 models are done. All those sections painted in, and we're now going to be moving on to painting in the hair and moustache on the soldier. For this I've used matte black. You need to be careful at this stage, as we don't want to be getting this paint over any of the finished face we've already painted. There you can see. And for a quick highlight, I've used deep grey on the hair Here, just picking out the top of the hair as it pokes out from under the helmet. Again, think about where the light would hit it. And the same for the moustache. Again, being very careful to not get this on any of this already painted skin. So finally, I'm going to be moving on to the metallics. So all the metal areas. First off, I'm mixing weapon bronze with some plate mail. And I'm going to use this to highlight any of the areas that we've painted the weapon bronze colour. So this is the arm guards on both models. Again, we're just looking for the area where the sun will hit it. So making these slightly brighter. Being careful here again not to get it on any of the other areas we've already painted. Using it here to highlight the front of the line breaker's helmet. Again, just hitting those areas that we want to be brighter. For the steel areas, I'm literally just using straight plate mail, and I'm just focusing on the upper parts of the chainmail, so around his shoulders, his back here, and the top of the head. And here are the completed models ready for basing. For the finished bases, you can see here I used a textured basing material to cover up the puddle base. This makes it look like rough muddy ground, and I've then, once this has been dried, applied some gamer's grass moss and red camellia flower to add a bit of colour of it and interest to the bases. These products are available through North Star. So here we have the finished models. I think they look pretty good. Each of these probably took about an hour to do, so if you're batch painting, you'll get a unit done in no time at all. So if you like what you've seen today, leave a like and comment on the video. The Oathmark Human Heavy Infantry are available through our website, and the link can be found in the description. Thanks very much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you again next time.